Guys, this is the last time I want to speak on Lucas Torreira until it's kind of official, but deluded, I'm back again. Lucas Torreira, another player I've spoken of highly and I really wanted at this club, and I love it when these things happen. Now, he'll undoubtedly be compared to Kante, and yes, you can compare him to Kante. Personally, I don't see, there's similarities, but I don't like the whole comparing him to Kante. They both recover the ball well, okay? He's a better passer than Kante, and Kante's probably better at closing down space better than him. So they're two different players. Lucas is Lucas Torreira, Kante is Kante. But you can say he's got the mix of Kante with the ball playing, which I don't necessarily agree with. But yeah, he can improve in his tackling, but that's an aspect for a young man he excels in. No player in the Serie A last year, 23 or under, I believe, made more tackles than him. He made the most recoveries in Serie A last season, in 296. We have a problem recovering the ball. We have a problem with being dynamic, just damn straight at Arsenal, because Xhaka, Wilshere, the two best examples. They're great with a football. Going forward, they're terrible. Like Jack Wilshere, you could walk past him, he's terrible at tackling. Xhaka will never be a good tackler at this club, in my opinion. So yeah, we do need him. I wouldn't class him as necessarily a defensive mid. He shows a bit of being a deep line playmaker. He shows a bit of being a defensive mid. He shows a bit of being a box-to-box midfielder. Ultimately, it doesn't matter for the technicalities. We just need someone who's going to win the ball back. Simple as win the ball back, loves to defend, which you can say he does. But he's got an engine. He likes to get up the field. At 21, 22, however old he is, very early on in his career, it is some coup if it does happen. Allegedly, we want it done before the World Cup, specifically Mislintat, Uno Emre, and Raul Sanye want it done before the World Cup. It's now the 13th or 12th, 13th or so, the date's wrong, of June. The World Cup's in a couple of days. So maybe it's wishful thinking a medical and all the I's and T's can be dotted. If he has close to a decent World Cup, other clubs get involved, it could complicate the matter. Allegedly, Napoli moved away from negotiations because his agent wants to get paid a lot. The client knows how much he's worth and wanted by all these clubs, so he wants good wages, which Arsenal are prepared to meet. We're actually prepared to pay over the release clause. Why? Because the release clause would have to be paid in full. Allegedly, we've only got 50 million, so we're trying to save our pennies. So we'll pay around 5 million more, which I believe his release clause is around 25 million. I could be wrong, but allegedly we're willing to pay 30 mil spread out over a number of years, which if you're Sampdoria and the players looking to leave the club, you could probably say we just want the straight cash, all the bands in our account. But you could say it makes more sense to get money, because if a team's paid more than his release clause, in theory, they're duds, really. Like, they're, pardon my language, they're dickheads. Like, would you pay more for a scarf or any item than it's worth, or what the club has deemed it's worth? I'm not getting at him. That's just poor businessmen on our businessship to a degree on our hand. But this is the point we are, and if it means getting the job done, then so be it. Like I said, he's skilled at winning the ball back. His long-range passing is good. At times, he can fade out of games. He's not perfect, but he's still a young player, and he's definitely got scope to improve. I do think there's scope to use him as a box-to-box midfielder at times, because I'm looking at it. If we play 4-1-4-1, 4-1-4-1 or 4-3-3 or something, midfielders will get games at this club. But there will undoubtedly be a lot of speak about, does Xhaka get dropped? Does Wilshere not stay? Does Ozil or whatever? There's many different ways we could play with them. For instance, the first one, and one I'd be incredibly excited about, if you could possibly play three midfielders, Ozil in the 10, Torreira and Ramsey, that's two dynamic midfielders. In theory, they both got mad engines, so they should be covering the pitch, in theory. If we're covering the pitch, we're dominating games, innit? So there's scope for that. There's scope for him and Xhaka to play together. There's scope for him and El Nene to play together. There's scope for him to not be in the side. There's scope for... There's actually some... I do think a midfielder will have to leave this club, but I do think there's a lot of tasty options we can line up with. And it's not just about having one fixed way. It's about having multiple ways to a degree of playing. Obviously, you have one senior way, and then you have some other ways. More unpredictable, harder to beat. And Arsenal's probably in a world of unpredictability with Trump, with Brexit, with all these things. Arsenal bottling and not competing for titles is one fact that has remained. Now, yeah, there's a lot of midfielders at the club, and I do believe they could all get games, even with his arrival. But we do need to also consider the other flip side of the coin, in the sense that one would probably have to go. Maitland-Niles seems to be getting his chance under Emre quite rightly, and figures in his plans. There's Aaron Ramsey, who he's spoken about quite rightly, who could figure in his plans. And Maitland-Niles could actually be next to Torreira. That's one option we need to keep. Ramsey, he's been speaking of. So that's three midfielders that are being highly rated. I believe he'll give Xhaka a chance. He won't be as prominent, but I do believe he'll use Xhaka. And There's obviously Jack Wilshere. So there's what, 5 or 6 central midfield players or midfield players, and that, on theory, assuming we go with, let's just say we go with a pivot, there's only 2 spots there, right? So someone has to leave and things. And the way Jack Wilshere's been moving, reluctance to sign a new deal, probably like he said, he wants assurances over his contract and things in regards to how he shapes up. It doesn't look quite rosy for Wilshere considering his contract's up. And I mean, the guy left when Xhaka signed for the club, so someone like Torreira is really going to scare him. I love Jack Wilshere, but you need to show some bottle and fight for your spot. There's no insurances. If I'm looking at it, El Nene will probably be the easiest in the sense that he probably knows his role, he knows his thing. Of course, he wants to play and he will consider leaving, but he knows how do I put it? I see El Nene, if I'm a manager, El Nene is going to give me less problems than Aaron Ramsey, Jack Wilshere, etc. Like I said, that's not to say he won't get in the manager's ear and say, why am I playing? I just think Ramsey, Wilshere, all these players will make more noise if they're not playing. El Nene seems a bit humble and from humble beginnings, humble club, rather than these guys who have a bit more entitlement. So yeah, man, last time I'm going to talk on Torreira until it's officially happened or doesn't happen. Guys, deluded. I'm out.